It's Monday, March 7. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gill. In the headlines, face-to-face classes resumes. JUTC short on buses. Trinidad and Tobago at risk of losing Pfizer donation. And in sports, Jamaica's under-20 Reggae Girlz have been knocked out of the World Cup. Following a near 2-year disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, primary and secondary schools have reopened their doors for full face-to-face classes. The 3 to 6 feet physical distancing condition has been relaxed, which means that classroom seating can be arranged to reflect the usual spacing of desks and chairs prior to COVID-19 restrictions. School administrators are required to continue utilizing isolation centers where there are signs of illness and continue working closely with health professionals, including parish health inspectors. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company has admitted that they are severely short on buses. This as questions were posed by parents during the Ministry of Education's virtual town hall meeting on the full resumption of face-to-face classes. Mr. Cecil Toms, Corporate Communications Manager, explained that he is confident that they will get the job done.
The first thing is that we are using our articulated buses, which we call the double bus, which has a capacity to move twice as much the crowd, or twice as much of the crowd in respect to our regular units. We think that this will be able to mitigate any crowding that may take place within the KMTR. The second thing that we're doing is that we're also bringing back into operation a number of the buses that have been down so that we can increase the fleet numbers.
Mr. Toms says the JUTC will also bring back into operation several buses that have been down to increase the fleet numbers and underscored the government's commitment to acquiring 50 additional buses. The JUTC manager also took the time to explain the additional transport support the JUTC has in place.
As you are also aware, the JUTC has a partnership with our sub-franchise operators, and those sub-franchise operators are those smaller coaster bus type units that students are able to take as well. But the fare structure may be a little bit different in comparison to what the JUTC offers. There's also the train service that came into effect earlier this year. Students from Old Harbor and Linstead are able to travel. And of course, when they get into Spanish Town, the JUTC is able to facilitate them by taking them to their respective schools.
Noting that some commuting delays may be experienced, Mr. Toms asked persons to be patient while assuring that everything would be done to rectify any such challenge arising. 2 weeks. That's the timeline given to schools with established shift systems to streamline their operations to facilitate the full resumption of face-to-face classes. This was disclosed by the Acting Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education and Youth, Dr. Kassan Troop. She says the timeline will enable the schools to work through their challenges and communicate with parents so they can know fully when they will be going back to their normal operations. She was speaking during the ministry's virtual town hall meeting on the full resumption of face-to-face classes on Friday. Minister of Education and Youth Favour Williams says technology will remain a permanent feature of instructional delivery in schools. She was speaking during the ministry's virtual town hall meeting on the full resumption of face-to-face classes held on Friday.
We will still have all the technology that you're used to in the virtual space. It will still be available. We will still as well have lessons on TV because the ministry has its own channels, so those will still be there. And of course, in terms of the learning kit, now you will be back in the, your children will be back in the face-to-face environment with their books, and they'll be in the classroom. The devices are there for your children to keep and care and to use them. to augment what it is that they're learning in the classroom. And I'm sure our teachers will be engaging them for homework sessions after school. Might not necessarily be physically at the school. I'm sure there are many teachers who will be arranging virtual sessions to help students with various aspects of their work.
The 20 Jamaican students who arrived safely from Ukraine on Wednesday, March 2, will receive professional mental health support. That's a word from State Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Leslie Campbell. He was responding to questions during the meeting of the Standing Finance Committee of the House of Representatives recently. Senator Campbell says the ministry will also engage with students to determine the next steps for the continuation of their education. The students were evacuated from Ukraine following the Russian invasion of that country. Interim Executive Director of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, JCPD, Dr. Christine Hendricks, says the process has started to establish a council as a corporate body. Under the new structure, the council will have greater power and autonomy in carrying out its mandate in supporting and advocating on behalf of the disabled community, including acting on cases of discrimination.
It will be managed by a management board who will be responsible for the policy and programming direction of the council. And the management board will report to the minister that has responsibility for disabilities. And in this instance, it is the Minister of Labor and Social Security. The new JCPD, as a statutory body, will be able to hire its own staff and be responsible for its own finances. And also, it will be able to carry out research and develop codes of practice for the avoidance of discrimination against persons with disabilities.
Under the Act, a disability rights tribunal will be established to adjudicate matters that aggrieved persons may take to the JCPD. More than 72 persons will be employed to the new JCPD in the first phase, and Dr. Hendricks says 13 of the posts have been advertised, including that of the executive director. Currently under review is the members who will form the board, which she says is currently being looked at by the cabinet. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says Jamaica can develop cottage industries to support the production of coffee byproducts like beverages as one strategy to bring more visitors to the island. Speaking at the recent launch of the Jamaica Blue Mountain Coffee Festival in St. Andrew, Minister Bartlett explained that with coffee being consumed at about 1.2 billion cups daily around the world, Jamaica is in a good position as the producer of some of the world's finest coffee to capitalize on visitors who come to the island in search of a satisfying gastronomical experience. Bartlett notes that with 42% of the expenditure of visitors globally being in the food and drink industry, government is prepared to invest in building Jamaica's capacity to deliver high-quality coffee experiences. Bartlett is quoted saying, "We want to bring coffee aficionados to Jamaica, and that's the whole idea of having this festival. We want to market that. We want to open destinations with that as a drawing card." End quote. The Jamaica Blue Mountain Coffee Festival will end on April 2 with a festival marketplace on the lawns of Devon House. It is organized by the Tourism Linkages Network, a division of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, TEF, in collaboration with the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce and the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. It aims to support coffee industry stakeholders, the private sector, and community businesses in the Blue Mountains, and strengthen links between the agriculture and tourism industries. Time now for our daily market updates in the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
In foreign exchange trading for Friday, March 4, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.97. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $121.05. the pound sterling traded for $207.47, and the euro sold for an average of $173.35. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Friday's trading session. The JSE index declined by 1,508 points to close at over 387,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 95 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index declined by 572 points to close at over 400,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 1,330 points to close at over 439,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 99 stocks, of which 46 advanced, 47 declined, and 6 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, CAC 2000 9.5 Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited traded firm. Panjam Investment Limited was the volume leader with over 6 million units, followed by Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 4.7 million units, and Wigson Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 3.6 million units. In market data for oil and other commodities prices soared while shares sank in frantic trading on Monday as the risk of a US and European ban on Russian crude imports threatened to stretch supply chains and heave further pressure on economies worldwide. Brent crude futures rose $11.67 or 9.9% to $129.78 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude rose $10.83 or 9.4% to $126.51 a barrel. And that does it for the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, we start with Antigua. Day 3 of the Senate debate on the Appropriations Bill saw a passionate debate by members of the Senate as they questioned the country's GDP growth and the extent to which it has been felt by citizens and residents. More details from ABS News.
Day 3 of the debate on the Appropriations Bill, and opposition Senator Sean Nicholas questioned the extent to which the growth in the economy was being felt by citizens and residents.
Madam President, we need to see money circulating in the economy. The husband must be able to take home, the wife must be able to take home, so that we see a difference, we feel a difference. Our standard of living is improved in this country. We are not seeing it here.
Later, a response from Government Senator Gail Christian. The legislator made reference to Trevor Walker's questioning of the growth figures in the lower house as she made her argument.
You know, call nobody in the Ministry of Finance, which it is your right and privilege to do as a member of the lower house. No. You don't go to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and get the statistics and say, tall man, and then call somebody in the Ministry of Finance. No, you come in and you twist your jacket and have you now? And then they start posting on Facebook, King like, blah, blah. And it didn't work out. So you move from that to saying, oh, who's feeling 5.3% growth? Me, I am not an economist. I'm just a lowly lawyer. But I'm thinking, my common sense tells me that if you're coming out of a pandemic with a positive growth rate, it must at some point in time be felt right across the economy. You can't expect it to be felt today.
Senator Christian also responded to other claims made by the opposition while listing what she says were some of the major accomplishments of the present ABLP administration.
That I want the people of Antigua and Barbuda to judge this Labour Party administration based on its performance. I've listed its major accomplishments. We the major road networks. Of course, we know they are bad roads, but let's talk about Friars Hill and Sir Sydney Walling Highway, that road leading to doing Boland's right now, going east. Oh, Lord Jack. Keeping people employed during the worst times, growing the economy, housing, the Entrepreneurial Development Fund, and presiding over the takeover of foreign banks by our local institutions. Come now, Antiguans and Barbados.
And in keeping with the increasingly intense political atmosphere, Government Senator and Deputy Senate President Osbert Frederick used a cricketing analogy as he sought to contrast both parties.
We have put the runs on the board. Victory is assured. Our lover said he knows what victory feels like because he has been there and he has that feeling now. Now this is a man who won 2 elections and lost 5. The 5 he lost. So I call him 2-5. But I already tell him 2-5 doesn't sound so good.
Moving to news from Trinidad and Tobago, Health Minister Terence Singh is warning the population that failure to utilize the 75,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines donated by the United States could jeopardize the country's effort to receive more.
Minister of Health Terence Singh is warning the population that failure to use the 75,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines, which arrived from the United States on Thursday, could jeopardize this country's efforts to receive more. Speaking during Saturday's COVID-19 health update, Minister Singh said the second batch of the 75,000 Pfizer vaccines will be sent under one condition.
You may recall we had to, unfortunately, dump roughly 260,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines, which were gifted to us. I just want to alert the population that the second tranche of 75,000, if we do not use or show an appetite to use a significant or all of this 75,000 doses, we would be jeopardizing our ability to receive any more vaccines.
President of the Barbados Road Safety Association, Charmaine Roland Bowen, has welcomed news of the planned implementation of breathalyzers on April 1 by the Barbados Police Service. Here's more from Barbados Today.
President of the Barbados Road Safety Association, Charmaine Roland Bowen, has welcomed news from the Barbados Police Service that they will be utilizing the breathalyzer testing from April 1. Roland Bowen has been calling for the implementation of these machines since the law to legislate their use was passed in 2017. She told Barbados Today that she was extremely pleased that it will now become a reality.
The Barbados Association, we are elated at the progress so far with the breathalyzer, coming into full stream in just a few weeks. It was a long one, hard journey, to get to this position, and we feel that it is so good. Words cannot explain, and the thing about it is that it is now here that will help stop injury on our roads, stop collisions on our roads, and also stop death. Unnecessary deaths in some instances on our roads, and we are happy.
The COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative impact on several industries across the region, but in the Bahamas, the real estate industry seems to have experienced the opposite. Sasha Lightborn of Our News tells us more.
The real estate business has been really good, according to real estate agent Matt Sweeting, who explained that despite the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic, the housing market apparently remained afloat. We caught up with Sweeting at a relatively new housing development in Western New Providence called Villanova.
And so 2021, I'll start there, was the absolute best year in real estate history. We've seen remarkable numbers on high and lower end. being driven by people's desire and demand for their own real estate. The trends that we've been seeing is this younger demographic, and again, the demographic that had a considerable interest in a Prospect Ridge community, for example, want income-producing properties, right? And I think what the pandemic really brought to the fore was the fact that people want to own their own real estate. If you were renting, it really brought to the fore that these people had a little bit more security than people who were renting.
Sweeting also shared his views on the Prospect Ridge development, noting that those who applied should not be discouraged.
All is not lost for those people that were looking to purchase in Prospect Ridge. There are some tremendous opportunities out here, this being one of them, that they might be able to buy a condo. They might be able to get something from a repossession. And there are some exceptional deals out there that they could make their own and still achieve their dream. Maybe not as in a good area as Prospect Ridge, but there are comparable deals out there.
He says there are many lessons to be learned as well.
Among the demographic that they were attending to satisfy, there's a huge demand for housing, right? People want land in great areas, right? And so I think one of the things the government might consider is creating quasi-government partnerships where they are partnering with developers, maybe even similar to developers like this, that are willing to provide the same concessions that they were going to provide in their own development for private communities.
Reporting for our news, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.
In sports, defending champions Excelsior and Kingston College retained their respective titles as the curtains came down on the 2022 staging of the Corporate Area Development Meet at the National Stadium on Saturday. Excelsior tallied 416 points to gain another hold on the girls' title, with Immaculate Conception next on 311.5, Wolmer's on 248.5, the Queen's School on 224, and St. Andrew High on 90, occupying the top 5 places. Over on the boys' side, Kingston College tallied 507.5 points to win ahead of Jamaica College's 427 and Calabar on 335.5, rounding out the top 3. Jamaica's under-20 Reggae girls have been knocked out of contention for qualification to their age group World Cup later this year after falling to a 3-0 defeat to Panama in their round of 16 knockout clash in the Dominican Republic on Saturday. The Jamaicans, who were without several of their first team players through injury and suspension, conceded goals in the 12th, 39th and 62nd minutes for a second defeat in the tournament. In their 4 games of the campaign, the young Reggae girls won 1 game, drew another, and lost to Guatemala and Panama. In the day's other games, Mexico romped to a 9-0 win over Curacao, while Guatemala beat Peru 2-0, and Haiti got the better of Guyana 2-1. As West Indies prepare to go head-to-head in their first test against England, veteran cricket commentator Barry Wilkinson weighs in on their chances in this series and what England has to offer.
I think the West Indies will feel quite confident going into this test series. I think they have a good chance to repeat the 2-1 of 2019 and reverse the 1-2 of 2020 when they lost in England. England selectors made a very big boo-boo by not bringing Stuart Broad and Jamie Anderson. You're talking about 2 of the best cricketers in Test cricket, bowlers in Test cricket, who have got 1,100 wickets between them. And England left them at home. They've brought Ollie Robinson. He's either sick or unfit. Mark Wood, the same thing. England already have started with some problems in their bowling attack. You look at the batting, well, yes, Root has been in good form. Johnny Bairstow had a good warm-up in the President's 11 game. I expect them to come through with the batting. But it's England's bowling that is pretty weak to me. No Jofra Archer, he's still injured, and a lot of work is going to be left on Wokes and Jack Leach, and I don't know if they might be able to stand up to some of the pressure that they might face. The West Indies have not been great in Test cricket. In fact, they've been pretty poor. But I'll say this. You look at the first-class matches that they've got coming into this test series. Craig Bradford had a double century. John Campbell had a century. And a lot of the other cricketers were able to get some good warm-ups. Jason Holder has generally been in good form with the ball, whichever format he's played. So the West Indies for the first time could feel that, yes, we are going to start as favourites against a team that are rated higher than us, which is not usual. Usually they always start as the underdogs. I think England, after that 4-0 Ashes defeat, still feel a bit low on confidence. and the West Indies will try to capitalize upon that. So you ask me who I think will win this series. I think the West Indies have a good chance of winning this series. Kemar Roach, just about 4 or 5 wickets short of breaking Sagari Soares' Test wickets. And he has been bowling consistently well. I think that will continue. If the West Indies team remain at the better level of fitness in this series, yes, they will beat England. The President's 11 game was a good warm-up, but many of those cricketers are not going to be featured in this. It was a good warm-up for England to get them some confidence, with Bairstow getting a century, Root getting on top of the runs. But the Test series is going to be different. Different kind of pitch that you're going to have there in the Sir Viv Richards Stadium, and different level of team, with the West Indies having a much stronger team to play than what the President's 11 would have served up. So I favour the West Indies to win this series.
The first Test match is on Tuesday, March 8 at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua, starting at 9 a.m. Jamaica time. Cricket West Indies says a new flight has just been scheduled on the 21st of March, providing more fans with a chance to get the third and final Apex Test at the Grenada National Cricket Stadium. CWI issued a statement explaining that these are available through www.caribbeanairlines.com. Flight availability has been limited due to the major disruption of the pandemic, and this news provides a welcome option for all West Indies and traveling England fans. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thank you so much for watching.